Hey man, if you got a couple of minutes, you're going to discover in this episode what you got to do in order to rack up more than 12,000 backers and raise over 1.4 million with a campaign. But not only that, today's guest that I spoke with actually raised with multiple campaigns, 6-figure and 7-figure campaigns on Kickstarter, being able to successfully, actually do something they love and launch a new product into the world, build a brand from scratch, and be able to do something that delights them, that they love showing up to work every single day and making an impact in a very difficult category. So we're going to talk about that in today's podcast episode, and you're going to hear right from the real world entrepreneur, right? The person who's in the trenches right now, who's raising funding and what they're doing to be successful. So there was a ton of great stuff that was shared in this episode, many lessons that actually go into racking up funding. How do you get media attention? What do you do when it comes to launching a campaign and going viral? These kinds of topics we talk about on today's podcast episode. And I think in addition, for me, this has just been a labor of love. Like, dude, I love being able to interview people like this, surround myself with amazing individuals. I feel so blessed, so lucky, so much gratitude. And I never imagined this would be possible when I started my podcast back in 2015. It's really just my mission to educate the world, to share more quality information and quality education so that other people could go out there. They could take inspiration from these episodes, whether that's a tactic or a tip or a resource, apply that, and we can improve the success rates in this industry. And, for me, it was a labor of love since 2012. I got started with my blog, crowdcrux.com, launched a podcast, like I said, 2015. I have a YouTube channel as well. On YouTube, you can check that out at Salvador Briggman, where I put out content every single week, and I've proven that it's been like insane, just the way in which that YouTube channel is growing. But for me, that's really at the end of the day why I do this and why I am passionate. And I think that one thing has separated, if I think about the success stories on the show, one thing has separated success from everything else. And if I really had to put my finger on it, it's people that are willing to live a life of discomfort, people that are willing to grow, being willing to own what's important to them in life, and being willing to put aside their pride, right? And at the end of the day, just be willing to educate yourself leading up to the launch of a campaign. If you are willing to do just that, I'm telling you, you're going to be far more successful with your crowdfunding campaign, far more successful in bringing a new idea into the world. So I really hope that you enjoy today's podcast episode. I got one quick resource for you if you are in the early days. Number one is I got a great book out there called The Kickstarter Launch Formula. I put together this paint by numbers formula, which you can follow. A plus B equals C. Really something to me that's not only been just chock full of tons of resources and strategies and tips and all the things that go into a successful campaign, but really for the people that have a big vision, that don't just want to hit their goal, but really want to smash through it. They want to raise even more than they ever imagined possible. So you can check that out because Audible is doing a free promo where you can get a free copy of the Kickstarter Launch Formula on Audible, and you can also get a free trial of Audible at the same time. So go to this link at crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. That link will take you there. crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. Again, crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio, and you can download a free copy of the Kickstarter Launch Formula via Audible. In addition, if you want the free course to kind of follow along as well while you're going through the book, go and check out crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter, and you can grab a copy of that free course also. Without further ado, let's dive into today's podcast episode and discover how this 3-time successful crowdfunder was able to blow past his goal and his team's goals and what went into this incredible campaign. Hey guys, welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Today we are speaking with a creator who's been able to raise over $500K with his most recent Kickstarter campaign, as well as have 2 other successful ones, one for a $1.4 million campaign, another one that absolutely knocked it out of the park. We are lucky enough to be speaking with this individual here today. They're going to tell us more about their products, about their campaign. Adam, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm so happy to be here and to be talking about music innovation and marketing and crowdfund, all good things.
Yeah, dude. Maybe we can get started. You can just expand on that introduction, tell the listeners a bit about your product and also a little bit about you.
Sure. Well, my name is Adam McHeffey, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Artiphon. Artiphon is a music instruments startup based in Nashville, Tennessee. And we've been designing musical instruments for everybody else. And what I mean by that is that for the past century, musical instruments have been designed for a select group of people. People who, have a certain level of dexterity or experience or the privilege to learn these things growing up, the money to buy instruments. And we think that through technology, there's a way to give more people access to music making, and that everybody is inherently musical, that everybody is inherently creative, that making a little bit of music throughout the day is part of just a healthy, balanced lifestyle. And we design very, very cool, sleek looking consumer electronic musical instrument devices. We have 3 of them in the market, and the 3rd is on Kickstarter right now. The first is called Instrument One, and the idea there was one instrument to rule them all, a multi-instrument, if you will. An instrument that can be held like a guitar and strummed, or laid down flat and played like a piano or drum pads. And then we went back to Kickstarter after Instrument One for Orba, O-R-B-A. And I imagine most of your listeners are driving right now, or listening to this with their eyes closed. Orba looks like if you took a grapefruit, sliced it in half, and turned that into a drum machine or a little handheld synthesizer. You make beats and loops right on the device itself. And that completely took Kickstarter by storm. That was a $1.4 million raise. And to this day, I think that it still has more backers than any other musical instrument on the platform.
Yeah, you knocked that one out of the park for sure.
Yeah. That was really exciting. And now we're back on the platform 3 years after that with Chorda, Chorda, which builds on a lot of the same technology as Orba. It's a standalone instrument. You don't need to plug it into anything. It has its own synth and sound engine in it. But what's special about this is it's a little bit longer. It looks more like it's about the length of your MacBook Pro keyboard. And you can tap and you can slide on this thing. You can pick it up and strum it as you would a ukulele, hold it upright like a bass. So it's this really interesting multi-instrument. And a picture says 1,000 words here. So hopefully most of your listeners just make their way to the platform and watch the video. They'll see the whole thing in action. So that's very cool. Yeah. So that's what we've been up to for the last little bit.
So when it comes to you, so you're in charge of marketing. Are you also a founder, or are you did you join the company at some point in time, or what's your role there?
I'm one of the founders. I've been at the company for 8 years, since that first Kickstarter launch of Instrument One. And although we're always growing, we're still a small company. We all wear a lot of hats. So, my main duty is to make sure that we're bringing our products to market, to make sure that we're always increasing our brand awareness, to make sure that we have a strong community and create revenue for the company. But the marketing department does a lot more than that. We're responsible for all sorts of things that you might not necessarily imagine, like packaging design, and also graphics in our apps, our iOS apps and Android apps.
Yeah,
so,
I'm sure you do a ton.
So
yeah, I mean, there's so much that goes into this for sure.
We've got a great product design team, and a fantastic engineering team that brings all this stuff to life. But we're a close knit team, and we've all got we're all involved in each other's stuff.
Yeah, what were you doing before you really joined the team and you guys launched this 8 years ago? What were you doing before that?
I was a touring musician. That's how I ended up in Nashville. I'm originally from New York, but I moved to Nashville because I was a touring musician, and it made sense for the geography and the networking that I was able to do there. And so Nashville became home. And what I didn't realize, I knew it was going to be great for music. I didn't realize that Nashville had this budding technology scene. In fact, it's pretty huge there. They have an entrepreneur center. They have all sorts of tech councils. And it's actually a fantastic place to start a business, especially an innovative musical instrument technology. And so the company is still headquartered in Nashville. But yeah, it was music that brought me there in the first place, just literally playing guitar and piano and banjo for different acts. And it's just a kind of a interesting evolution for me personally. I've just always loved instruments. I've always been interested in how things work and how they're tuned and who plays what. So I've just always been into instruments, really. And to take all of that, I was never great at, I was actually never that great of a musician, but to take my love of musical instruments and to be able to give that to the masses, it just was a very logical stepping stone for me in my career. It all felt very organic. I never had to think twice about it.
I think there are a lot of musicians that are out there that, love the actual craft, right? And love music in the way that you do, but so many people don't take the leap in actually starting a business. Did you want to specifically start a company, or was this just a great idea you couldn't pass up on? How do you label yourself? Are you an entrepreneur, a business person? How do you think of yourself?
I've always been entrepreneurial. I was a kid that had lemonade stands, or whatever else it was back then. Always trying to concoct some scheme in the neighborhood. My father was and is a professor of business and marketing. So sitting around the dining room table, we were always talking about customers always right and things like that. So it was a little bit in my blood to think about businesses and scaling businesses and what's the next step. And meeting up with Mike Butera, who is the CEO, who is very, very strong on the product side, it just became a really, really natural partnership where he had, continues to paint this picture of what the future of music making will look like. What does the world look like when everybody's a musician? I was inspired by that. I was really compelled by that. And I thought that I could augment his efforts with what I knew on the music side, the music industry, the music business. Also just playing instruments. It really was as organic as that. I thought that my skill and my upbringing mixed with everything that Artiphon had going on the product design, it was just kind of the right moment.
And when people are looking from the outside in at these two campaigns, I mean, your last one having over 12,000 backers, which is so many people, and doing millions with these other two, and I'm sure you're on the road to that one with this one. What does that feel like? Because you kind of were able to create this out of nothing, in many ways. What did it feel like to really have thousands of people around the world be responding in this way? Yeah,
the thing I'd want to stress for anybody thinking about launching a Kickstarter or starting their own business or anything like that is this is always an unknown. Yeah, we've got an established brand, sort of. None of that really matters. This is always an unknown. Before you go into a crowdfund, I promise you, everybody, no matter what company they work for, is pooping their pants the night before and up until 8:55 a.m. the next morning when they're getting ready to press go. You have no idea what the community is going to react to. You really just don't know. I mean, you do your best with the content. You try to have a really strong product. You make a great campaign page, but there's going to be an element of it that you can't control, and that's really exciting. So I'd want anybody listening to know that, even after having $2 million Kickstarters behind us, going in for number 3, there's nothing. there's nothing certain about it.
Yeah,
nothing's promised. You still have to fight every single time. And so, it was surprising to have 12,000 people say that they wanted this in their lives. It was validating that maybe people are hungry for a different type of musical instrument, that maybe there really are people out there that want to make music but were previously intimidated or didn't think that they were cool enough or something like that. And that's exactly the sort of stereotypes that we're trying to break free from. So when we closed out that campaign with 12,000 backers for the Orbit campaign, we said, okay, this is going to work. This worked. And we were able to scale the business tremendously after that. I mean, that completely transformed the company to have 12,000 backers. And that turned into well over 100,000 customers since then. So the product continued to scale long after the Kickstarter campaign as well.
When you're really working on a product like that, and the craftsmanship for this new campaign and also that one, is insane. How long are you spending really preparing a new product launch? And from idea to getting it out there? How long are you usually preparing?
Truthfully, with our products, it's probably 2 years of R&D from the napkin sketch, which is literally sometimes a napkin sketch because these things happen in sushi restaurants around the world. So from napkin sketch to actually having the product on a customer's doorstep, 2 years is the honest answer for how long that takes.
Mhm.
Chorda has been in development for well over a year and a half, and like I said, it's built on previous technologies that we've put into our other products. So it's a little bit more nebulous than you can't give you the straightest answer on that. But on the marketing side, it's a little bit easier to answer. From the moment you decide you're going to do a Kickstarter campaign, you need at least 2 months, and maybe you could get it done faster than that, depending on what you're doing. But with a company our size and with the products that we have, minimum 2 months, and that's being super scrappy. That's shooting video yourself and doing your photography in-house. I imagine for a company bigger than ours, they'd go slower. We're fast, and it takes us 2 months.
Mm. So you're spending 2 years from idea to creation, and then a couple of months on marketing as well. So I imagine that first week or that first day is really important to you. What do you do to really have a strong first week? Because I know that's one big takeaway, right, that you had.
Sure, I'll get really specific in case there are people out there thinking about launching Kickstarters or doing another Kickstarter. I'll stay super specific for this one. Day one is super important. So setting your goal. When you're a company and you're trying to have a big Kickstarter, the goal that you set, it's good to hit that pretty quickly. So we set a goal for this campaign for $25,000, and basically that represented a couple hundred units. We knew that we were going to sell those very quickly. I didn't think we would sell through that many in 15 minutes. That's actually what ended up happening. So we probably set our public goal a little too low for that one. But what that allowed us to do is have this very marketable moment, which is Artiphon hits their goal in 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty major. And what that did on day one is it created all of this hype. It created hype with the press, like TechCrunch and Engadget, which are important to the Kickstarter cycle. And also it sets off something within the internal algorithm that says this is a campaign worth looking at, and that's it gets on Kickstarter's radar, and it can appear on the homepage and things like that. So I don't recommend for everybody to set your goal to something that you could hit on day one, but it's something that we've always done.
So setting an achievable goal, making sure you can blow past that, right, in a short amount of time, sounds like it's been beneficial for you, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and for both for the press hype and the algorithmic stuff. But let's talk about how you actually get there. So, because $25,000 is still a lot of money. That's
a good chunk of change.
Yeah, it's a good chunk of change. So that doesn't happen on its own. One of the things that we've done, and we're lucky to have a pretty sizable mailing list at this point of being, we've been in business for a few years. So we knew that the majority of those people were already in our orbit, but we still had to make sure that they were going to take action the day of. So we relied on SMS, text messaging, which is relatively new for us. I'm sure a lot of your listeners are super familiar with it. Some people are probably considering it, but it's been amazing for us. And basically what we did is we gave our installed base, our current customers, a heads up. We said, we have something amazing coming. We can't tell exactly what it is, but it's another instrument. It's going to launch on Kickstarter, and you're going to get a discount if you're one of the first. Sign up for a text alert, and we will let you know the second the campaign page goes live.
Ooh, I like that.
And, it doesn't even have to be a ton of people. If you have a few thousand people on your list, you get a couple hundred people to sign up for that text notification. And then, boom, text goes out. It links to the Kickstarter, add a great image, and basically you have your goal met just with your own installed base on day one. And then from there, it snowballs and hits everybody else on the platform.
I think what's so smart about that is you do see who's the most bought in, right? But also, I think that open rates for SMS are probably incredibly higher right, than email marketing. And it's so personal as well. It's like, it's a really cool, you can even have a conversation to a degree. Like that's a really cool technique, I think.
Yeah, this text message said, this is introducing Chorda, a musical instrument designed for everyday creativity. And let us know if you have any questions. And people absolutely wrote back. And we got into dialogues with all of them. People have questions. People just want to let you know how supportive they are. Some people have, constructive feedback, and that's great as well. We always encourage that sort of back and forth.
If you're worried about the fulfillment and shipping part of your Kickstarter campaign when it comes to getting out all those perks and rewards to your backers, rest assured I've put together a complete Kickstarter fulfillment and shipping checklist for you, and it's free. This is sponsored by the folks at Fulfillrite, and they thought that you should have this checklist as part of your arsenal going into a crowdfunding campaign. If you want to get instant access to this checklist, and it's free, you can go to fulfillrite.com/checklist. Again, that is fulfillrite.com/checklist, fulfillrite.com/checklist. Just go to that link and you can download it immediately.
When you discover something like that, do you then incorporate that into like all of your future marketing and like your existing business, or like, how do you think about it? Is that just kind of like a one focus when it comes to launching?
No, I mean, we continue to send out those, now we have this list, right? We have this list where people have bought into, they've said, yes, I'm interested in getting text updates from Artiphon. We try not to abuse that, but during this campaign, we're certainly sending one a week. And we only send stuff out when we have news. We kind of set a principle for ourselves, which is we very, very rarely do big promotional discounting. Mm-hmm. We never send emails that say buy, buy, buy. We always try and pull people in. We never push. And so we use our content and videos and user-generated content and the work that we do with artists. Everything has to have a nugget in it, something truly interesting, a reason to open up the email, a reason to click through on the text message. And that's another thing that I would, it's not just enough to show your press image twice. You have to continue to build on the story. So we do a lot with artists. So we did, we've only got a handful of prototypes, so we can't send Chordas out to everybody that we want to. So I've been going around. I did an artist visit with a hip hop artist 2 hours away, and we filmed that. And then just last week, I was at a great public library on Eastern Long Island, and we filmed that. And so instead of saying buy, 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 discount, 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 we're saying, watch what happens when you put this in the hands of 5 high schoolers. Watch what happens when a hip hop artist uses this with in their studio. And that's what our text messages look like. That's what our emails look like. And I think that that's one of the reasons we have higher open rates and higher click-through rates than most of our competitors.
Is that when you are thinking about using, a new technique like that, is that coming from discussion? Is that from your education, your learning? Is that, I remember you mentioned, I remember your family as well, right? In marketing. Where do those kinds of ideas come from?
All of the above. We've been doing it this way for so long that they really do feel like principles at this point. When we have new employees join us, these are the sorts of things that I teach, right? This is my onboarding.
You're a teacher, man.
These sorts of marketing principles, and they've worked for so long, so we don't touch them. Obviously, the content changes, but that just makes sense to us. We see a lot of our competitors. I won't say any names, where their entire strategy seems to just be discounting. It's either 10% off or 30% off, and those are the only 2 emails that you're going to get from them. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at this and I'm saying, where's the story? I mean, where's the value in this product? This is, I barely know what this thing does or how it's going to augment my life. So we're definitely always sharing just things that we see that we like. Here's another fun artiphon insider thing.
I was gonna say that word is too big for me. That one, artiphon.
Artiphon, yeah. So we, I love this book, Steal Like an Artist. I don't know if you're familiar with this book, but one of the things that the author says to do in Steal Like an Artist is you keep something called a swipe file. The swipe file is a file where you put every good idea that you want to steal yourself. Steal like an artist, obviously, is like you're supposed to steal if you're an artist. This is by the author Austin Kleon, and it's a very, very easy read. It's like 80 pages. So everybody should read Steal Like an Artist. But Austin Kleon recommends keeping a swipe file, which is just a folder full of everything that you're going to steal and put in your own art. And we have a Slack channel that's literally called Swipe File, and it's built on that idea. And every time we see something on the internet or out in the world that we love and we want to steal, we put it in the Swipe File, and people, comment on it and thumbs up it if they like it, or they say, "Oh my gosh, this would be perfect for us. We have to do this right away." And we steal everything we can. So,
that's so smart. And I think that's a really good way to also just turn like you being a consumer into also you enhancing your skills as a producer, right? Because you're like consuming art and you're experiencing other people's products, and then you're turning that and using those things you like and incorporating that into your own.
Yeah, absolutely. We take this stuff really seriously. I read the D2C newsletter. I read the Hustle. I encourage my employees to listen to podcasts on all of this stuff. So we're super interested. We're not phoning any of this stuff in. Like, we're hyper competitive and always trying to find just the next little optimization. Like if there's something happening, we want to know about it and we want to be able to capitalize on it.
So hearing you first talk about that, it sounds like education and learning is a big value, right, for your company. And another one seems to be just discipline. And I think it's hard to be disciplined. Where does that come from for you? Like, I mean, being disciplined as an artist is hard. Being disciplined as a business person is hard. How do you encourage that habit with yourself or with your team?
Yeah, really good question. And truthfully, I'm not sure, but I'll say this: I've had very few problems with laziness on our team. Like, we're fully distributed. We were remote before lockdown, and especially on my department, we've got a lot of problems, like every business does. I'm not saying everything is perfect, but laziness has almost never come up. And I don't know if that's because we hire a certain way. We ask the right questions when we're talking about bringing people in. We just bring people in who like really hustle. And even if an employee feels like maybe they're going a little slower than everybody else, they stay late and they put in the time. And I certainly like to think that we reward them for that. Mm-hmm. And but there's something we did right, and I'm trying to figure out what that is while I talk to you right now. I don't completely know what the secret sauce is there, but we've had a very, very dedicated employee base since day one, and everybody just really wants to see this succeed. We definitely have hired people who believe in the vision, and
I think, it could also just be the craftsmanship behind it, and that it is so cool. It's like one of those things where, like, if you're working on a movie set with someone who has like a big name, you just want to show up. Like, you want to be disciplined for that person because it's like a really cool product, right?
That's how I feel about the people. Like, I feel that way towards the people that I've hired, the people that report to me. I feel like I have to show up for them. Like, if they're going to show up and give their all, then like, so am I. And like, if they're going to go out and make a video or write a great email, like, I better make sure that I'm showing up and putting the work in as well. So it really is this interesting setup that we have. And that might be the other thing is, we grant our team members a lot of autonomy. We all collaborate and we do a lot of check-ins and a lot of constructive criticism. But we also, if somebody just wants to cook, we let them. If somebody has a great idea, we're going to carve out time for that. Mm-hmm. So it's not a typical 9 to 5 where there's just a task list and you have to do exactly what I say. People have all sorts of things that they've come up with themselves, and a lot of them were real needle movers for us.
Really interesting. I like that. I think they're taking ownership, allowing people to take ownership to a degree is so important, right? So we talked a bit about SMS and sort of the impact of that in your campaign. We talked about how you don't like the idea of the flash sales as much and more of like telling the story instead. One of the things we haven't talked about that you mentioned in our pre-interviews is this idea of like press, right, and media mentions. What are your thoughts towards that? Because I think it's a very mixed message in the space. Is this something people should spend time on even? Like, what do you think about press attention?
I could go on all day talking about press. I think it depends on the company, where you are personally, where you are with your company and what you're interested in. But I'll tell you some of the things that we've done right and some of the things that I think we've done wrong. We have always had a close relationship with the press. And this started with the Instrument One launch. And we got a lot of that press ourselves. Back then, we were the ones reaching out to TechCrunch, and we were the ones reaching out to Fast Company. And a lot of that actually went great. And there was a ton of press for the Instrument One campaign, and you could still go read it all. We had a staff at the time that was, had some experience in media relations, and that was really helpful. And that felt really right for us at the time, because we felt like we just had the grit to go out and write the emails, even if we didn't have the relationships. Mm-hmm. And we had the product and we had the splash with the Kickstarter campaign. If you have nothing yet, if you're on day one of your business and you have no contacts in the press and you don't know who to reach out to, Kickstarter is going to actually be hugely validating. And if you have a successful Kickstarter campaign, you're going to have a much easier time reaching out to A-list tech press than the other way around. So, and then, over the years, we've cultivated those relationships. We've also worked with, half a dozen PR firms, and the majority of them have been great. And we continue to have really good relationships with those agencies. But as we scaled as a business, we needed additional firepower just to make sure that we were sending all of the stories to the right people. We sent out 4 press releases during this Kickstarter campaign, which was a lot of news. But they were all different. So the first one was, we launched and look how successful this is. And that one did really well. And then we did another one, which was this hip hop artist I mentioned earlier. His name's Dom McLennan. He was formerly from the hip hop boy band Brockhampton, which was pretty well known band. And we knew that story would play really well with the music trades. And so that story got written up in Billboard, completely different audience. And we wouldn't be able to walk both of those worlds with some help from external agencies. It's just sometimes there's just too much to do. It's too much to keep track of.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But two completely different ways to tell the Chorda story, the Kickstarter story, but to 2 very different outlets.
One other thing just to add on to this is, like, I think there's been so much changes in, like, new platforms since you've also launched your first campaign, like TikTok, right? And like YouTube. What are your thoughts on influencers versus, like, more of these traditional press outlets?
Oh, we do a lot with influencers, and I think that is, I feel like that's just a part of everybody's funnel at this point. Depending on your product, if you haven't ventured out into influencer stuff, it's definitely worth experimenting with. We're at a point now where our influencer engagement is just as lucrative from an ROI perspective as paid ads. And that was not the case 4 years ago.
That says a lot. Yeah.
Nobody was saying that. And we all know what happened to paid advertising and Meta and iOS 14 and 15. So we don't have to kick any of that stuff up. But that world got really hard, and the influencer engagement is still extremely strong for us, and continues to actually just get more and more obvious. I think that all of these things go hand in hand. I wouldn't launch a Kickstarter without at least shining a light on press and shining a light on artist influencers, and making sure that you've taken advantage of any opportunity that you have in front of you. I think you need a little bit of both to create that cocktail.
Yeah, well said. And that's obviously been very, transformative for you. I have 1 or 2 more questions, but at this point, where can people go also to learn more about your current campaign that you're running right now? Where should they go and check that out?
Well, it's easiest, I think, just to remember the company name, Artiphon, Artiphon. And if you look that up, it'll take you right to the campaign page. If you go to the website, it'll take you right to the Kickstarter campaign page. The product that we're currently fundraising is Chorda, I'm not sure when this episode is going to air. The campaign ends Wednesday of next week, August 16th.
Awesome. So I'll be sure to link that up in the show notes and also your website there so people can go and check it out. So just one or two more questions that I had kind of along this front. You have a wealth of knowledge and you've been doing this for so long and you've learned a tremendous amount. Do you feel like there are any kind of myths or things that people should know in the industry that just aren't being talked about or aren't being said, right? Or things that you feel like people would benefit from hearing?
Yeah. So what about the myth of viral marketing? I remember when I was playing in a band, I had this a PR agent tell me, we just need to do something viral. When you just like you need, they sent us a bunch of videos of other artists that had gone viral, and viral. You just need a video that's going to go viral. And why did that make me feel so like not good at my job? And I bet that a lot of people listening are like, oh yeah, like viral, like how do you go viral? Like what a stressful idea. Like you need to be so successful that everything is just going to change for you overnight. You need a video that's just going to hit and just spread like crazy. And there's a lot more to it than that. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to go play your instrument like naked out in Times Square and hope that for some reason the algorithm loves it and people love it. What viral means is that when one
That's
person...
a great idea, though.
Yeah, that's okay. When one person sees it, they're going to share it with more than one person. That's literally what it takes, like, for a virus to spread. So that's what it means to go viral. And you can do that through basic things like taking care of your customer, like making sure that the customers are satisfied with the product experience by following up with them, making sure that they're happy, by answering their questions, by sending them really good onboarding materials. Like the basics of running your business is how you will create word of mouth and repeat customers. And that's the core of what it means to go viral. And like, yes, like make great TikToks, but that's not what our business is built on. Our business is built on people having positive experiences playing music and then telling their friends about it. And that to me is so much more viral and so much more important and leads to so much more longevity than the TikToks that we have that have over 1 million views. And we do have that as well. But that hasn't turned into revenue or sustainable business the way that just the basics of good customer care and support really have. So that's my myth. I think that there's a myth around what viral marketing is, and it's important to businesses. And there's actually a process and a way that anybody can capitalize on this. And it's more simple than people think.
So it's almost like redefining that word, because when you say like, oh, just need to go viral, it's almost like a cop out. It's like, well, then I don't have to put in the work, right? But for you, it's more of making the stories of your customers go viral, or making their stories be one of them be shared with someone else, and someone else resonates with that story and they kind of pass it on, right? In that fashion.
How do you get every customer to tell at least one other person about your business? That doesn't sound that hard. To me, that's a much more engaging question and a much more thought-provoking question than how do we go viral?
Yes. It's a lot more easy to wrap your head around, right? My final question for you, and this has been so many great advice and tips, and I really appreciate you being willing to be so transparent with this, because I think a lot of people look at your campaign and like, my gosh, like this guy is untouchable, right? He's done like $1 million launches, and you guys have incredible design and like really great marketing. So I really appreciate you being willing to be transparent. My final question for you is along the lines of, do you have any quotes that have really inspired you, or do you have any final advice or tips that you'd like to share? Or it could even just be a word of encouragement for other people in the audience, bringing their ideas into the real world. Anything along those lines, and we can end on that note.
Yeah, I've been inspired by a number of different marketers that I've worked with, and I think one of the things that everybody agrees on is that you need to follow your gut and be authentic with everything that you put out. And if you're struggling to make your first TikTok because you don't know if you'll fit in or something, then do something that feels organic and natural to you. Tell your story in the way that makes sense to you, and if something feels off, it probably is. And if you don't like the way that it looks, then nobody else will either. And I feel like that's true from my band days, playing in bands and trying to market, myself and my music. And it's equally true running this Kickstarter campaign and the overall artiphon business, is that if something doesn't feel right, if you don't think it's going to work, you're probably right. It's not going to. And so with every video you make, with every blog post you put out, with every email you send, make sure that it feels authentic to you. Make sure that you feel really good about it. And that's the stuff that's going to take off. That's what's going to do well and carry the project forward.
Well said. Well said. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate your time and sharing all those great tips, and looking forward to your next launch.
Well, thank you very much. So are we.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Again, my name is Salvador Briggman, and I commend you, my friend, for showing up every single week, listening to these podcast episodes, putting your education first, always being trained, always being willing to learn and grow, and really gain these different reference experiences from these success stories, attacking those limiting beliefs which you have. I think at the end of the day, you got to surround yourself with the right people, and you're certainly born with like a certain set of cards, right, when it comes to your life and your resources and those kinds of things. But also, sometimes your environment is not always supporting you. And for me, I think about my life, and for example, I was adopted from El Salvador, one of the most disempowering environments that you can be in. And I feel so gracious and so lucky and so much gratitude that I was actually able to grow up in the United States. And for me, success has always been my duty. And I've been willing to put myself in empowering environments that allow me to be successful. So I hope that this podcast, by listening to some of these real world entrepreneurs, you take away the same thing, that this is possible. If you just surround yourself with the right people, you can get there, my friends. So I have two resources for you in ending this show. The first is that, again, if you want to follow along when it comes to the book, The Kickstarter Launch Formula, and you want to kind of get some emails from me every single week, different lessons that are teaching you the tactics that go into launching a campaign and delivering funding and backers to that campaign, go and check out the link at crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter. Again, that link is crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter, crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter. Sometimes, though, it's not enough to just learn, and it's not even just enough necessarily to listen to other people being successful. You really want to have a mentor. You want to have a guide. You want to have someone who knows the road ahead, who knows the path already, and can help you steer clear of different pitfalls, or can tell you the straightest path to success, or tell you what you got to do to go big with your campaign. And investing in that experience can allow you to gain a tremendous amount of knowledge in a very short period of time. And as well, I'll allow you to correct your course when it comes to this particular game plan going into a campaign. So for me, I'm really passionate about this industry, and I decided to make myself available to my coaching students to help them raise funding. So if you're interested in booking an individual one-on-one coaching call with me, all you got to do is go to the link I'm about to mention, fill out a little bit of information, and we can get that call scheduled ASAP. So not only can you hit your goal, but you also blow past it, smash through that campaign goal, and really be armed with all the resources that you need, introduce you to the right people in the industry. And in addition, I will work occasionally with some of my coaching students if they have a really cool or interesting product or have a big vision that I think I can help them pull off. So if you're interested in learning more, again, crowdcrux.com/coaching. Just go to that link at crowdcrux.com/coaching. And I also include that as in the description. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you. If you did enjoy this episode, leave a positive rating and review on iTunes. Give me a thumbs up on YouTube. Join the community. Would love to see you be the next success story and to come back on this show and tell me all about it. Thank you so much. I will see you next time.